Welcome to another episode of Wholesome Thinking. The main objective of our conversations is to challenge people's minds and stimulate wholesome thinking by utilizing the gifts that God gave us. This platform is inspired by scriptures, spiritual journeys, perspective, and life. It's important to us that we highlight these conversations to help others on their journey and provide perspective. In 2 Peter chapter 3, it says, "Dear friends, this is now my second letter to you. I have written both of them as reminders to stimulate you to wholesome thinking." If you ever want to join us on the Wholesome Thinking podcast, please contact us on Instagram, TikTok, or our YouTube channel. Our handle is Wholesome Thinking Pod on all platforms. We encourage everyone to reach out to us, not only to join us, but to provide us feedback or tell us about other topics you'd like to hear us talk about on this platform. Our main rules on this platform are commitment, creativity, no cursing, prayer, and no judgment. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation. What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing this week?
Doing excellent, man. Glad to be here again. Another episode 15. Exciting.
Doing well, man. Hope y'all boys had a great Mother's Day weekend. Was able to celebrate with family, but I'm doing well. Happy to be here again.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. You are appreciated. Without y'all, there wouldn't be no us. So love y'all. Happy
That's
Mother's Day.
facts.
100%. 100%.
Well, excited for this topic today, fellas. I think it's gonna be I think this is something that people are gonna need and something that people are gonna play over and over. So tonight, man, we're talking about boundaries, and this is something that Kayla and I are always talking about with the people that we're working with is boundaries. We hear a lot of conversations about what's going on in people's lives, and the root of it is honestly boundaries. And, even though something I've been thinking about, Rel, this is actually one of your topics that you brought up, man. And, it's crazy to think what we're talking about and then you sharing that with us. Love to hear kind of, where did the topic come from, man? What were you thinking about with it? So we can go ahead and get started with this.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate you, Shad. I know I text you fellas probably like midweek. I know we usually send the topics on that day, but during that time, and even currently, I was doing the Keep It G call for about 50 something weeks straight. And a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, I was kind of like, I don't know if I was getting burnt out, so to speak, but I could tell that my energy was shifting a little bit, and I was getting a little distant from God and my relationship and the things that I was like practicing over the past year, and just continuing to progress with Him and my relationship with Him. I could tell that I was starting to fall back a little bit. I could feel I don't know how to explain it, but I could just feel my energy was shifting, and I don't know if I was getting drained. A lot of the times, like I said, I've been doing that call for 50 something weeks, but outside of that, I also had other things going on that was draining my energy as well that I kind of wasn't aware of. I think I texted y'all the week before and was like, fellas, like I'm struggling right now. Like I don't even know what's really going on, and probably was under attack by the enemy. I'm not really sure. Nothing necessarily happened during that time. I could just feel like I was drained. I could feel that I wasn't praying as much. I could feel that I wasn't reading the word as much, but I also could feel a tug in my spirit, if that makes sense. So just being able to understand that, reaching out to you guys and realizing like, man, I don't know what's going on. Shad, you were the first one to say, bro, you need boundaries, right? And I'm like, all right, but I didn't really put it into context at all in the moment. And so the next week or that Sunday, Janae and I went to the Kendrick Lamar concert, and Spence texted me probably like midday, Spence, I think, and was like, all right, bro, like I ain't trying to hear from you for the next couple of days, like really unplug. And that's kind of when the light bulb went off. So appreciate Spence for even texting me and doing that, because like a lot of the times I'll just stay engaged with whatever's still going on, have my phone on, still answering guys call that may call me, answering people call, my loved ones, my friends, whatever, and just having that conversation. And so Janae and I take like those 2 days off, and then that Wednesday comes, and every Wednesday is the call. And bro, my spirit was just telling me like, just take an extra day, like just take an extra day off. And I really didn't understand what that meant at the time, but as soon as I canceled the group, ironically, man, my phone started like blowing up, right? And Shad, you text me like, hey yo, make sure you like turn your phone off. I was like, well, I already planned on turning it off. And then when I turned it on, I just realized people were really blowing up my phone. And typically, a lot of guys don't respond to the text message they get on a Wednesday. But I don't know if they were concerned about me or just was like they needed the space as well, right? But that's neither here nor there. So essentially, I shut it down, and then I end up reading the Bible plan that Jerron sent us a week and a half, referring to the last episode, "The Soil of Your Heart." And this section that I was reading said cultivate rest. And when I was reading it, boundaries came right back up. And it was in a way of I'm supposed to be creating boundaries not for myself or being able to spend time more with my wife, which I should be doing those things. But I also need to be creating boundaries to spend more time with God and be more intentional about what my time with Him. Or I could be a wandering sheep again very easily. And it could happen so quickly that we don't realize, or I could just get burnt out and I'm not ready for whatever God has prepared for my life next. Different opportunities may come my way, and the enemy may be present, and I may not have the armor on at that time. So just being able to understand that I have to rest within Him. And Jerron said that a couple episodes ago, like try to find rest in God. And I really didn't understand what that meant, and I still don't understand what that means. But I can see that we do have to be able to find rest in Him, and that may not mean sleeping at all. That may be just meditating in His presence, getting in the Word, or getting up early. And the different things that I was reading in the devotional and the different verses was hitting me a little bit different. And my wife and I was actually talking about it on a ride back from Philly. I was like, babe, like, you know, how do I create boundaries? And she was like, well, what you mean? I was like, she's like, you burnt out? I was like, nah, I'm not really burnt out. I just feel like God about to elevate us in a different way, and I want to make sure I have appropriate boundaries put in place so I'm not burnt out. You know what I'm saying? I feel like this is about to be the next level, and I just want to make sure I had the right boundaries in place. And so we talked through that. And then on that Wednesday, boom, the word is just going at it with me, just like you got to create boundaries and you have to be intentional about your rest. And just being able to do that, man, that Thursday into that weekend, opportunities just start pouring in from out of nowhere. And so just being able to understand that, like, God need us to rest in Him, to talk to Him, to surrender everything to Him and get the burden off our shoulders. A lot of the times we just try to carry it. So those are the boundaries that I was referring to in the text. But I know, boundaries can mean a lot of different things. So I kind of wanted to see what y'all perspective was just on boundaries. But, what are y'all hearing after I said all of that? I know that was a lot to say.
Yeah, right away, what I'm hearing is intentionality, man. Like one, we talked about it before, being self-aware. And after you're self-aware, you're being intentional with how do you address that? You went to your wife, you got in the word, you started looking at the Bible plan, you actually took action to do that. And sometimes people don't really realize that, especially me. I know there's been times where I didn't even realize that I needed to set boundaries and wasn't intentional about it. And it just became something that just kept piling on and piling on and piling on to a point where I felt the same way like you felt, maybe overwhelmed, maybe burnt out at times, because I didn't set that proper intentional boundaries and things like that. So what I heard from you is someone who recognized something was going on and you made sure to focus on fixing it the right way. You did all the right things to kind of fix that and address it. And whether that's a one-time thing or an ongoing thing is, only time will tell for that. But I think seeing the intentionality of it is, I guess that's the good part that I was hoping to hear from the story. That you were, hey, I noticed that this was happening. Let me do these things to fix it. And so that's what I got out of it.
Word, appreciate you, Shad. Anybody else?
Yeah, for me, I think it was I'm happy to hear that. Setting boundaries is not easy. Especially um for example with people, depending on the people that you're trying to set boundaries with, like your family, friends, loved ones, people that you're close with. It's kind of hard to set boundaries with them because you always want to be around them. You always want to be in constant communication with them. But sometimes it's needed because if you don't set boundaries, things can get a little haywire in your life and you can lose focus with this going on over here, this thing going on over there. It's hard to lose focus, and that's what it seems like what was happening with you, real. You was losing focus on God and getting tugged in a bunch of different directions because you didn't have those boundaries set up. So I'm happy to hear that. Me personally, I I have boundaries set, but I still struggle with setting boundaries, especially when it comes to people I really care about, because I want to always, show up for them, especially if they show up for me. I'm like close friends and family and stuff. So something I'm still learning as I get older, trying to set boundaries, especially when it comes to people, work, my emotions, finances. But definitely happy to hear that you're setting boundaries and kind of putting your focus back on God.
I appreciate that, bro. And no, it's super difficult. My wife shed some light. She was like, Terrell, like, if it wasn't for these phones, people wouldn't have access to you like that. And I'm like, she right. You know what I mean? And that kind of shed light on like, okay, how often am I really answering this phone like that, right? And I started realizing that I was answering that phone a lot because over the past week and a half, I've been intentionally not answering that phone, and it's like, yo, wow. And it's like they only calling because you always pick up, and I'm like, man, that's tough because I love everybody. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I think the boundary thing is difficult for me. But just being able to like apply them was a very challenging situation for me. I think what I'm learning is that, man, I'm a little bit more rested and I can do more when I'm applying these boundaries, and I don't think I could necessarily do that because maybe I have been just spending too much time on the phone. So just being able to also identify, hey, what people actually pour into my cup when I call them, and that's what kind of like really started shifting my perspective a little bit more, and being able to like just apply that boundary and not really having no type of salt in my mouth just thinking about like I'm just salty because I just want to pick up the phone and show love and listen and being listening. Y'all know how it is with me. Like, I'm gonna listen to you, I'm gonna give you some feedback, I'm gonna show empathy, I'm gonna do whatever I can to help you. So that's I just wanted to appreciate you for sharing that for Spence. But go ahead, JG. My fault.
So I hear, and it's good because it's good to kind of acknowledge and know that for you, Yerb, that boundaries are necessary in order for you to make sure that you're resting from like maybe a self-care perspective. But I was wondering, Shad and Spence, like just keeping it right there, like what are some ways that setting boundaries can help ensure that you're getting the rest and that you need, that you're taking care of yourself or yourselves?
Yeah, I like this question. I like this question, JG. And then as well, for the audience, as you're listening, I want to just let y'all know that as we talk about these questions and these topics, make sure you go to our description of our podcast, and we make sure we have timestamps for you all. So if you want to follow up on a spot, I think this is an important topic to go back to, especially some of these key questions we're going to talk about. So definitely go into the description, look at the timestamps if you want to just focus on one particular part. But JG, to answer your question, I think, man, having boundaries allows you to have a level of peace and a control of your time. And when I say a control of your time, what I mean by that is when you put boundaries with other people or things, and I'll talk about some of those later on. But when you start putting boundaries into place, it allows you to focus on what you were planning on focusing on to begin with, whether it's your peace, whether it's your work, whether it's your family. And whenever something disrupts those boundaries that you have set, you lose that piece to be able to do that because now you're letting something else come into the fold that shouldn't be there. That's why we say boundaries, right? There's, in a sense, an invisible force field, whether it's a physical field, a mental field, emotional field, that something is entering that disrupts what you already had going on in that level of peace. And so when something is impacting your boundaries to where it influences it, it kind of disrupts that piece in a sense of what you're focusing on, what you're geared towards. And I think that's kind of where we see people start to get overwhelmed or stressed out or things like that because there's so many things coming into, in a sense. If you want to illustrate it, that force field that's saying, okay, what I had in my bubble is now being pulled and overcome by all these different things that are coming in. And I guess kind of from Terrell's perspective, not answering the phone, that's his time. Like if he had something to plan with his wife or something and he's answering the phone, and this is something that I have to work on too, because there's times where I get a phone call and I will take it. And I may be on that phone call for an hour and a half or something. And that was actually time I was supposed to be doing something else. or that was time I was supposed to be spending with my wife and the peace that we were going to have. But I took that time because I didn't control my boundaries, and I let that phone call take over. And instead of cutting it off, saying, "Hey, like I got something I got to do, I have something I had planned out," it I let it overcome it. And when I let it overcome it, now something else is being taken away, right? Because you can't just fit it in without something being like changed. If you're going to take that in, you're going to lose something in return. And in my situation, was my time and where my time was being spent. So if you can't control those boundaries, it impacts that peace, and that peace can be a lot of different things.
I would have to agree with Shad. Peace is something you can't buy. You can't put no monetary value on peace, and I think that's what comes with setting boundaries. And also for me, when setting boundaries, a lot of my boundaries have that I've set have come with experience growing up and being and reevaluating situations and different things and people I've been around, and personally how I felt being in those situations and being around those people. And ooh, I didn't really like the person that I was when I'm around this person or when I'm in this situation. Or ooh, I kind of like how I felt when I'm around these type of people when I'm in this situation, this type of environment, this positive environment. And so I think growing up and learning the type of how I feel when I'm in certain type of situations or around people has helped me set those boundaries. Obviously, they can change as I get older and experience new things, but I think that experience is the best teacher in life. And I don't think boundaries should be rigid. I think they should be flexible because we as humans evolve every day. We're always changing. Our interests are always changing. Our perspective is always changing. So our boundaries are also going to be changed as we get older and experience new things. So, but I think experience um helped me cultivate boundaries in certain situations and help put myself in situations that I enjoy being around and creating that peace that I look for.
Word. Okay. Okay. What you thinking, JG?
For me, I think that boundaries are important for me to I'm realizing that like I think in my just kind of evolving as a person, as a parent, as a husband, um and as a believer, I've kind of moved away, I think, from people pleasing because I think that I was there for a while, and I think that's helped me as far as establishing boundaries. So just in focusing on the aspect of rest and kind of living or dwelling in peace, I think that not taking on too many responsibilities, and trying to focus on what is currently on my plate, it has been helpful. Not looking forward too much. I think not comparing has been very key for me as far as establishing boundaries to maintain or to find rest. Because when you start looking around at some of the other things people are doing, you kind of feel like you should be doing more or you could do more. And so you start trying to like squeeze in extra things into your schedule and that really shouldn't be there in the first place. Um, and so I think that can kind of mess up your rest. And just being okay with saying no to certain opportunities or to certain people. Just being willing to say no and being okay with that. Um, and just knowing that it allows you to be more efficient with your time spent with the obligations and responsibilities that you already have. And so I think learning how to rest in Christ is an ongoing process or learning process for every believer because it's complicated. It's like your faith walk, it can be complicated. It's simple but not easy. I think that's what we kind of like to say. That's been coming up a lot lately, but there is work required of us on our end. Like it's not like our faith isn't a passive one at all. We have to be active, we have to be alert and aware, and we have to be ready to put our hands to the plow and work. But at the same time, it's I can't remember the exact location, but Jesus said, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. And what he's saying is we should, instead of trying to do all the work ourselves and putting all that burden and weight on our shoulders, we should work side by side with him, and that he's going to take, because his yoke is easy, burden is light. So he's taking that, he's sharing that responsibility with us, but at the same time, he is working on our behalf and empowering us to do the things that we need to do on our end, making sure that we're not taking on too much or more than we can bear. So that's been an important one to kind of grasp the concept of that scripture. I'll look up the exact location. It's in Matthew somewhere. I can't think of the exact location, but yeah, like just being a willing participant, doing the work for God's kingdom, but asking the Lord for help where we need it, and making sure that we're not shouldering too much of the burden, and that we're not taking on too much work, because in Jesus the work is finished. You know what I'm saying? It's just about, being a light to our feet and a lamp to our path. So, yeah, that's kind of where where my mind goes when it comes to boundaries for rest.
Got you, got you. That's crazy because I was going to read to the audience kind of what was in when in a devotional, and I was about to read that part, JG. So it says, "Yet in our modern world, rest feels like a luxury rather than a necessity. Our busy schedules and constant distractions and cultural emphasis on achievement often keep us from the true rest God designed for us." Jesus addresses this tension in Matthew 11:28 through 29, inviting the weary and burdened to come to him. He offers a rest that goes beyond physical rejuvenation, a rest for our souls. This rest is found when we trust him to carry our burdens and allow him to lead us into his gentle and humble way. And so, like, a lot of the times I struggle with boundaries when helping somebody, but I also can struggle with boundaries when it comes to achieving something like I just read. So when you're tied to this, I gotta be successful mentality, or like I gotta make sure I'm achieving this by a certain age and doing X, Y, and Z. Like, how do you ensure that you are I guess, resting sometimes, and then being able to apply boundaries when it's really just yourself and it's not involving people, it's just your mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important, and we've talked about this before off mic, but I think it's important to always observe a Sabbath, um, where you just, again, you kind of disconnect, um, put the phone away, and focus on things that's gonna um, refresh you and rejuvenate your spirit, whether that's spending time with family, of course, spending time with the Lord, but kind of breaking away from your normal routine and just being intentional about resting. Um, you know, uh, the Sabbath is a command. It's one of the 10 Commandments, so it's not really an option for us. Now, it's not like, of course, there's grace, in Jesus. So it's not like a legalistic thing in that way. But God provided the model for us when He created the earth and everything in it. He rested. He rested on the seventh day, not because He Himself needed rest, because He doesn't, but He was modeling that for us, in that, so we don't get burnt out, because we are not God and we don't have this inexhaustible supply of energy. Like, we as humans require rest to function. So, we're not supposed to be working every single day. We're not supposed to be, out here grinding or hustling or whatever the terminology is each and every day. Yes, we're called to work, and we're called to work hard and work as though we're working for the Lord and not man. So we're called to work and put in our effort towards that work, but we're also called to rest as well. And so, whether, the Sabbath doesn't have to be on a specific day, but you do need to set aside time to rest from your normal routine so you don't get burnt out and run yourself into the ground. I think that's really important. And I think that's something that gets overlooked, especially now, when everything around us is moving so fast, and it's all about getting to it and hustling all the time. Like, you really do need that rest.
Yeah, JG talking right there, because that was the same thing that when I met with Tanner, that's the same thing he said. He's like, do you have a day of rest? Do you have like a Sabbath? Like, what do you? And he said, it doesn't have to be, like a Sunday or Saturday, but like, what is the day where you don't do nothing? You don't do stuff for the podcast. You don't do coaching. You don't do anything. And I was just trying to think. I was like, man, at that time, I really didn't have anything. And so I said, okay, I need to find a day. And I think I remember, uh, Rel, when you brought this question up or you brought this topic up, I think I asked you that same question. Like, do you have a day of rest where you're not doing anything? And I said, on my day, I still got to work because it's a weekday, so I still got to work my job, but I don't take on I don't do part time work that day. I had one before I made the decision. I had one life coaching meeting that happens not every week that I do, but honestly, that day is for me. As soon as I get off work, there's nothing scheduled. I hang out with my wife. We'll watch a movie. We'll rest. She's not doing coaching. I'm not doing coaching. I try to limit any type of work I have to do until after that day. And it just allows me to, like JG said, it's just not feel burnt out, but also giving myself that Sabbath and giving myself that day of rest to just, relax, um, reset, and then just focus on what I need to focus on, what's more important than just getting like the work done, grinding, and just allows me to actually get closer with God in that aspect, but also build a strong relationship with my wife or a strong relationship with people, because that's something that maybe I neglect when I'm always on the go, and I don't maybe realize it. And so, yeah, what JG spin right there, because that was something that I needed to make sure I did. And then with JG saying it, with Tanner saying it, it's just like that's, what is that for you all as well? And for you, Spence and Rail, but even for those that's listening, like, do you even have a day of rest for yourself also? And if not, how can you create one too?
Absolutely. I'm intentional about my time and making sure I get rest because honestly, before the wedding, I was constantly working. I was constantly always doing something because I was trying to make sure we could pay for our wedding. So I was working as many hours as I can at the Y while also doing my full time job. So it was that during that time I didn't have any rest. And kind of after the wedding, I started implementing a day of rest for me where um I can spend time with my wife. I can do things that I might enjoy, whether it's, getting on the game or watching a movie with my wife or just relaxing. But definitely have become more intentional about finding that day of rest where I can recoup and be intentional about my time and spend my time doing things that I want to do. But real, you also mentioned the mind games about competing with yourself. Rest doesn't mean that you're falling behind either. And I think it was JG that mentioned comparing. You can't compare yourself to others, and just because you're resting doesn't mean you're falling behind in the race, or falling behind on the path to your achievements. Rest is needed. It's needed so we can come back to center, refocus, so we continue achieving what we want. And it is not our timing. Just because we want to keep going, working and working, it's not our time, and just because we're going and working doesn't mean we're going to get there faster. It's God's time, and when He wants us to get to reach that goal, that success, that achievement, He's going to put it before us. So us overworking ourselves just to reach this achievement it's not good. That's how you end up getting burnt out and losing focus.
And it's important to note that like when we are intentional about resting, we're honoring God through our obedience. And so when you put it in that perspective, it makes it a little bit easier to kind of to take that time, whether it's a day or whatever it is, because you know God knows what we need. Like He created us. If we didn't need rest, like then we wouldn't be having this conversation. So like I think it's important to also note that in um, obeying and taking the Sabbath, you're obeying, you're showing obedience to God and you're honoring God. You're putting your trust and your faith in Him that He knows what's best, that He has your best interest at heart, and that you don't think that your way is better than His. A more tangible example is Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A closed on Sundays, and listen, as a frequent consumer, of Chick-fil-A, and as somebody who travels with the kids, like, man, when we coming back from somewhere on a Sunday, that's a tough decision now. We don't have a one-stop shop for everybody on Sunday because Chick-fil-A closed, brother. We going to like at least two different spots. Because my kids are particular about what they eat, especially my son. So like if it's a Saturday, we good money. Everybody got a menu item at Chick-fil-A. You know what I'm saying? But other places, it's like, okay, we gotta find an exit that got this and that. We gotta have a couple options because, not everybody's gonna be on the same page when we don't have that one common spot. And so, and Chick-fil-A is not hurting for business at all. By being closed on Sunday. As a matter of fact, it probably increases their business on other days. I would say specifically Saturday and Monday would probably be a little bit more busy for them because they're closed on Sunday. But I can't remember too many times I've been to a drive-through and I'm the only car at Chick-fil-A. So again, they not hurting for business and they're honoring God. So I mean, I think God is blessing their business in that way that they're still able to be profitable and do the things that they need to do because of their obedience, and because they chose the God way.
So, all right, we talked about boundaries with people, boundaries with the mind, boundaries with success and money. All right, so now another one that I struggle with, family. How do you create boundaries with family, especially when you may have a lot of things going on? For me, man, I'm always on the highway. Y'all know that. And just being able to make sure everybody's good, make sure I get to see them, knowing that we all only live one time. I know Spence went away for Mother's Day. I went away for Mother's Day. So, just being able to like, how do you navigate it? And so for me, it's so different because, you know, my parents emphasized this early on. So they called me the 95 baby, bro, for a while, even to this day. Like every holiday we were on the road, any regular holiday. I'm talking about Mother's Day, Father's Day. And if it's a string of birthdays 6 months in a row, we're on the road. And so all I know is go up 95 and come back in the same day, or, you know, the next day or something like that. So, a lot of that time is spent on the road. But I just want to ask, like, how do you guys navigate boundaries with family? Because it is needed, because, you know, I ain't gonna lie, I've been tired. I've been tired since March, and not realizing that, oh, I have been on that road for a lot of different reasons, and it's taking a toll on me. So how do you guys navigate creating boundaries with family?
Yeah, I want to go on this one because I know you mentioned we touched boundaries on a lot of different things. I don't feel like we actually touched them really. Like I feel like we focus a lot on boundaries for ourselves and gaining ourselves for rest for ourselves. But JG mentioned something that I want to make sure isn't missed, and that's when he talked about used to be a people pleaser, and I think a lot of the times when people are people pleasers or people want to be a strong servant leader to others, that's where the boundaries with people and boundaries with your family really get tested. And sometimes when you want to be if you're a person that people pleases, it's hard to just say no to people, especially your family, because you always think that, man, they've always been there for me. What do I look like saying no to them? And I think when it comes to family, we never want to disappoint, right? There's that this approval, this imaginary approval that we think if we start denying our family, if we start saying no, we're going to be like labeled like the black sheep or something because everybody else is doing it, but we're not doing it. And so, kind of for us, I mean, for me, and then for Kayla, like we've turned down so many different things because we knew we had to set boundaries on it. When we were building our business, we had to turn down a lot of family events. We've turned down trips with families. We've turned down cookouts, just because of the resources it would take, the time it would take to travel. Like you said, you're 95 and you're going up and down the road. Like that's not free. That's not free on your money. That's not free on your time. And anytime, like I said earlier, to any time that you've taken away from something else, it's gone. Like you get to replace it with something. And so when it came to family, I had to be okay with not like my family knowing that I'm not going to be there for every single thing. And I had to say, like, hey, like, I can't make this. Like, I'm not going to make cousin Jimmy's 1 year birthday because I have to go and do something. And a lot of people struggle with that decision because they want to make sure that they're pleasing people. But part of people to get people to stop and help understand that what you're doing matters too, you have to be able to say no to some of those people. And you have to be able to say no to mom and dad or your brothers and sisters or cousins. Like, you have to be able to say no, because at the same time, you have to make sure you prioritize yourself and what's going on with you. So that way, whenever you do need to make sure you do give your time and your boundaries to them, you're at the best capacity to do so. And sometimes that requires you missing some stuff. And you have to be okay with missing things. And I think that's kind of where the pleasing part comes in, because you don't want to miss anything. You want to be there for every single thing, but in the meantime of you doing that, you hurt yourself in the process. And so when it comes to family, I mean, when it comes to people in general, but especially like your family, you have to not worry about like the aftermath of saying no. And if your family, like if you've been rocking with your family enough to go to every single event, they can understand if you miss an event. And I think that was something that I was nervous about with my family when we were building our business, is that, man, if I'm missing this event, how are they going to feel about it? And eventually, after a while, anytime I had something, they just knew, oh, like, oh, he's gonna be doing business. Oh, he's good. Like, oh, he's gonna be doing. It was never no back and forth. Oh, why are you always picking that over us? It was never that. It was, oh, you're going to go do your business. Okay, have fun doing that. We'll see you when you come back. And it's when you set those initial boundaries, even if you didn't and you do it now. If you go back and say, hey, I want to put boundaries in place with my family that I'm not going to be at every single thing, that's when you can start to kind of release yourself from that, where you're not having to go to every single thing. And I think a lot of the times, if you're trying to please people, that's where you get stuck, because you it's a hard for you to say no. You just want to say yes to them because, like you said, they've always been there for you. They've always done everything. But honestly, sometimes no needs to be said, and your family's not going to love you any less by you saying no. But I think that's really what needs to happen, is that you have to be okay with saying no, and you have to be okay with your family living their life and you living your life. Another thing is, people always, like, families input, they always want the best for you, but their input is not always the best input for you. And you have to be okay with saying, like, I thank you. Like, thank you for giving that, but not always following it. And sometimes you always want to get their approval or their feedback or their answers. And you should just always look at it as perspective, not your decision. And if you always take it and say, hey, thank you for sharing that with me, and then make your decision on yourself, then you start to separate yourself from your family, and you start creating those boundaries and those walls, in a sense where you're just like, hey, I can have that peace again, and still enjoy my life, but also still spend time with family when needed.
Got so many questions. Go ahead, Spence.
I got a question too. I was waiting. Telling your family no, was there ever, what feelings did you have when telling your family no? Because for me, I always felt guilty when I have to say no. Nah, I can't be there this time, because they've always shown up for me, whether it be school accomplishments, football games, graduations. They've always shown up for me, and then they want me to come to something. I felt that guilt of not being able to show up for them, even though when they showed up for me. So what type of feeling, I guess, when it do you feel, or do you feel anything when you have to tell your family no, I can't be there for you, be there at this occasion?
There we go, Spence. There we go. Come on. Come on.
So um, I'm working on becoming an empath. So the answer is no, I didn't feel anything really, because I'm working on trying to feel more and be in tune with it. But I will say that I knew what was important, and I just hope that my family knew what was important. I think the only one, the only big decision that I think I missed, that I'm like, man, like, I wonder if that really mattered to my mom and dad, because they asked us, was they took a trip to Hawaii, and Kayla and I didn't go, and they asked us to go. They said, just, hey, did you get your flight? You can come stay with us. We're going to Hawaii. And we said no. And we were focusing on stuff with our business, and we was like, hey, we're gonna postpone that trip. And I wonder, I haven't talked to them, so now they're probably gonna bring it up when they listen about how they felt about it. But I would love to know. But I think that was probably one of the hardest ones, because that is a trip that both of us really wanted to go on and enjoy with them and have that experience with them. But honestly, like when it comes to like most of the times when my family want to do something, or if there's a celebration or something, if I can't make it that time, I just make it up to them. Like if I can't go that weekend because I'm tied up with something, then I may come another weekend and celebrate with you or celebrate something like that. Like if I can't make it, for example, we found a way. We didn't get to go home this weekend for Mother's Day, but we found a way to meet them in Richmond and still have lunch with my mom and stuff like that. Like we're gonna find a way to make sure that we're not like compromising what we already have going on, but still to find a way to celebrate you. And sometimes it's not the same day. Sometimes it's another day. One of the things that I heard was, and I think this is a great way for boundaries with people, but also yourself, is that when it comes to the day of an event that you're celebrating, don't be married to the day. Be married to celebrating. And what I mean by that is still find a way to, it doesn't have to be the exact same day, right? It doesn't, if your birthday is on a Tuesday, you don't have to drop everything you got in the world to celebrate on a Tuesday. You can celebrate on the weekend. So don't marry the date, marry the celebration. And that's kind of what I put into place to be able to say, like, hey, like I can't make it to this event at this time, but what I can do is make sure I find another time where I can celebrate with you. And that's for 7 years while we've been in the business, that worked a lot. Like if we didn't make it one weekend, we found another time where we could make it to make sure we're doing something.
I appreciate the response, and that your response kind of brings up another question for me, and it's a different side to boundaries. And it's like, can setting boundaries be negative? That's the thought that
Just thinking the same thing, Spence. Thinking the same thing, bro.
came
Yeah.
to my mind, because I'm like, you set these boundaries, you can get like pushback, resistance, and then people can get distant and kind of not want to deal with you because you set these boundaries. And I'm like, you open up a whole nother can of worms based on
Nah,
your response, and it just kind of triggered that question.
nah,
Yeah.
that's. I was
That's
thinking the same. I'm over. Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. My fault.
there you go. What are you about to say now? What you about to say for
Nah, that's all I'm over here thinking, bro. Like, it starts to create. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's different for everybody. Like you said, I think it is dependent upon the personality as well. But for me, I'm the opposite. So I am an empath. I feel everything. You know what I'm
right?
saying? I overly feel emotions and feelings, and I could probably understand a lot of things. So I feel like it can isolate you from things, and it starts to almost become so normal that it's the same on the other end of the spectrum. To whereas for me, I've never experienced a Christmas or a Thanksgiving at my own crib just relax. All right, I've never in life. People will still come or whatever. That's fine. But I've always kind of been on the road until probably recently, if I'm not mistaken. But like, I wonder what it'd have been like if I just always said, not always, but said no more often. How would the engagement be the same as far as asking to, hey, are you coming this year? And then it's gonna start shifting, and then it's a new normal now compared to, hey, the love and kindness that you're used to hearing. You know what I'm saying? So, Spence, is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know
Okay.
JG got a response for this too. I saw his eyebrow.
Jade, I'm gonna go first to let you go because I think there's two answers for this. So the first answer is I think can boundaries be negative? I think boundaries are only negative when people don't understand truly what boundaries are. For example, if someone says something like, "Oh, they said something like this," I'm gonna cut them off because you messed up my boundary. And you just cut somebody. I don't think that's really boundaries. I don't think that's giving grace at all to someone. Like if they just, oh, they said this, boom, we ain't cool no more. You like that's not really what boundaries is. And so that's when I think boundaries can be negative. But other than that, no, boundaries are for you, free to have with other people to make sure things can stay healthy. Like it's nothing wrong with having a healthy boundary with people. But if you're just cutting people off just to say I'm having boundaries, then we got a problem, right? That's not really boundaries. And that's what some people do. And they call it their boundaries when it's really not. Now, if we go back to our expectations episode, we kind of talked about like if we're doing all these things for people and they respect us enough, they're not going to take advantage of us. They should be okay with you saying no to not coming to some things. For example, we go back and forth to Kayla's family or my in-laws in Pennsylvania, which is 9 hours away, or to my family 4 hours away. And we split Thanksgiving and Christmas because we just can't do both. But just because, and we tell them, hey, I'm going there. And it's not like my family has never said, I'm mad that you're going there. And because most of the times I say, hey, you know what? I'm still going to make sure I celebrate. I'm going to come down maybe in November or beginning of December, come see y'all, drop off any gifts I have or send them through you, Spence. I know I sent gifts through you to pass to them when you went home. And it's been fine. But when we're looking in the process of moving into a house, renting a house and moving into a house, we're going to want to have Christmas at our house. And we're going to want them to come to us, right? And so that way both families are satisfied and they have to be okay with that. Like, oh, I don't want to travel 9 hours to come. You should come here. No, we're having Christmas here. And if you don't want to come here, then that's on you. And if you're upset about it, then that's something that person needs to deal with internally and figure out. And like, hey, why do I feel this way? Because I can't always compromise my feelings for somebody else's. Because then again, back to the beginning, where's my peace if I'm always compromising? And if you're always compromising your peace, you never have boundaries, nowhere. Whether it's your friends, whether it's work, whether it's yourself, you lose all those boundaries when you take your peace away and you're compromising your own peace for somebody else. So like your family should be able to respect you enough and love you enough to be okay with you not always being there. And if you say no, it's a problem, then that's not on you, that's on them. And I don't know who needs to hear that when they're listening to this, but it's not your fault if your family's mad that you can't attend. That is something that you have to be okay with. But that's the hard part, especially people who are people pleasers, because they want to make sure everybody's happy. Every time they're happy, you're not. Because you're the one playing ping pong, like, how do I do this? How do I make sure all this is done and make sure that they're good? And not once have they said, are you good? And so, JG, go ahead, man. I just been going. So
Man,
go ahead,
you
man.
talking, man. I think I needed to hear this too. But go ahead, JG.
Nah, cause all I heard when y'all raised those questions about boundaries and can boundaries be a bad thing, that's just another form of people pleasing. I'm gonna be real. That's all I heard. It's like you're trying to find a way back to now all of a sudden setting boundaries for yourself so you're not overtaxed, so you're not overworked, so you can experience some rest. All of a sudden now that's a bad thing because other people don't get to see you. No, that's people pleasing. And look, this is where I'm going with it. All right, stay with me. Ephesians 4:25. Okay, so stop telling lies. Let us tell our neighbors the truth, for we are all parts of the same body. Okay, you might be wondering, well, hold on, JG. Ain't nobody saying nothing about telling no lies. Nobody said anything about lying. I got you. Hold on. Just hold on, because I looked up the definition. Okay, one of the definitions of lying or to lie is to make an untrue statement with intent to deceive. Okay, another one is to create a false or misleading impression. Now, so we all are a product of black families on this podcast. So when people are making plans, what's usually said at the end? So we good, right? So you good with that? So you good with that? That is a question. They are asking a question. Okay? That ain't just some colloquialism. That is a question for you to answer. If you are not okay with that, you need to speak up and say, nah, that don't work for me. No, nah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do that. I'm being serious, because if you don't, you're lying. That is creating a false or misleading impression, because if they say, are you good, or is everybody good with that plan, and you're not good with that plan, but you don't speak up, that is creating a false or misleading impression. Now, you might try to say, well, if I just don't say anything, then that's not lying, because I'm not even making a statement. I'm not creating anything. That brings me to lying by omission. Okay, which is a passive form of deception that involves deliberately withholding important details to create a misleading impression. So you can lie by what you say, and you can lie by what you don't say. Okay, both of those are forms of lying, and Ephesians told you stop telling lies.
I picked the wrong topic today.
Hey, come on. Hey, let me take back in, JG. Let me take back in real quick. This is
Let's
what
go. Let's
happened.
go
This
now.
is what
Hold
happened.
on. Hey, hold
This is
on.
what
Hold on.
hold on, Real.
Hold
Hold
on,
on.
man. Because
Hold
y'all
on. You
wilding right
gotta,
now. Hey, yo,
you gotta
Spence.
hear this.
Can we stop the pod? We got to. Hey, yo, this is eating me alive. Hey, go ahead,
Hey,
Shad.
Stepping on
hey,
toes.
listen.
Oh, my
Because
goodness.
what happens when you don't say nothing and then you show up to that event and you burnt out? What's your attitude like?
Taking a nap.
You taking a
Come
nap,
on now.
and
Come
you
on.
angry, you irritable.
Yeah, you're not
You,
showing up as
you ain't
your
even
most genuine self. Yeah, I see what you're
exactly.
saying.
You ain't even present
Hey, Spence,
because
we got
because
it.
you didn't put boundaries up to begin with. You didn't say. You said, you know what? Hey, everybody good with that? Yeah, straight. Yeah, we good. Meanwhile, like, nah, I don't want to be there.
Hey,
I
yo.
can't come right now. I got so much I got to do. I got work to do. I got studying to do. I got family to spend time
What
with.
if you? What if you? What if you just want to rest?
I just want to. That ain't nothing wrong with that either. If you need to rest, you need to rest. There's nothing wrong with missing something to rest. You don't have to be at everything. You do not have to go to every single event that's happening. Especially if you're
I'm
not,
gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it a
if you
stack.
can't even give you what's up.
I can't say all black families. Some black families don't believe in rest, bro.
But that's boundary still. That's
Nah,
rest.
I know. I'm just talking. You know what I'm saying? I'm verbally processing with y'all right now.
But but if you think about it, right? Because you're right. Maybe there is some families that, there probably is, that don't believe in rest. But even on a productivity standpoint, like not having rest is like, studies shows, like, if you're not, like, for example, if you're not getting good sleep, it shows that everything you do to function goes down. Your reaction speed goes down. Your mental cognition goes down. If that's the right way of saying that, like, you just can't even think right. You have brain fog, all of this stuff. Matter of fact, I'm gonna post it in the chat. I'm gonna post a reaction test link. I want those that think they get good sleep and don't get good sleep to do the reaction test. I did it with no sleep and I did it with sleep. Drastic difference with how fast I react. Like, and that's just a simple thing of happens when you give yourself rest, like we talked about earlier. And that's just like the actual physical rest. This is not just resting in God, this is the physical rest. Now, imagine just how you move through life when you resting with God too. Because you're not trying to do everything. You're not trying to do all these worldly things on a daily basis. Just imagine the difference that it is. And what JG is saying right now is that, like, that's something that people don't have boundaries on. They just say, yeah, we straight. Yeah, that's good. But all of that is stuff you don't want to do. Your attitude changes. You don't want to be there. You're not even enjoying the moment. You're not even in the moment with them. And for what? Now you wasted your time. You wasted their time because you mentioned, what if they don't like that? What if they upset that you say no? I'm more, if you ruining the event for them, I'm almost certain they're gonna have a less time liking you. They're gonna like you more if you weren't there. You know what I mean? So, like, like, me and JG tag team partners of the world right now because
And me and Spence the same when it comes to this. So I like the 2v2 right now. I'm actually like I'm listening, right? And me and Spence line is I'll figure it out. It's cool. I got you. That we ain't saying it straight. It's like, all right, I'll figure it out. Like, but I don't know, man. And maybe it's just my family. You know what I'm saying? Disclosure, disclaimer, everybody. No, no shock to my family and love y'all. But maybe, bro, I'm not gonna lie. In my family, rest is a form of laziness, bro. It's not productive. I don't know kind of where y'all families are when it come to that, but I never really seen nobody rest. And so now I'm like listening to y'all, I'm like, oh, whoa, like this is real. Like this stuff actually making a little bit more sense now. And I don't know if I really ever understand. That's why I was struggling a couple weeks ago. Like, man, I don't think I really know how to apply boundaries because my family is always there. My mom and dad, they there for everyone, and so I want to be there for everyone. It don't matter. It don't matter what's going on, and y'all see how I show up in different spaces and what that look like. So y'all saying a lot of information right now for the first time that I'm hearing a little bit differently. And it's all related to boundaries, but I think the people pleasing hits a little different when you're talking about family because you may not take it as serious and you may let some stuff go that you wouldn't let go for just a friend or somebody you may know. It's easier to say no to where it's like when it's family, I'm kind of with Spence, like, sometimes I feel a little guilty, but I don't. I'm so used to it that I'm numb to it as well. You know what I'm saying? I'm still happy as I don't know what because I love him and I'm gonna get to see him, and I ain't seen him in a minute, so it really don't bother me. But kind of to your point is like, if you keep doing that, how you showing up for real? Like, and that's where it hit me. Like, man, sometimes if I'm tired, I may not be showing up in my best way for them. And then am I showing the love that they deserve too, and that I can receive as well if I'm being my most genuine self. So now I really appreciate y'all like sharing those different perspectives. That's definitely different.
Yeah, I ain't even got nothing to add. I'm just processing over here, stepping all over my toes. I tell you. I tell you.
Hey, I'm telling you, man. Like, Terrell, you mentioned like you're happy to see them and stuff like that, but if that wasn't planned, you're still sacrificing somewhere else. So you happy in one area, but you're not happy in the other area because you lost whatever you're supposed to do for that. Like you, there's always a sacrifice when something wasn't planned and something that comes up and interrupts it. That's why boundaries are important, because it allows you to make sure you focus on what you have to focus on, and you have to be okay with that. And if you're like, hey, those other things can just disappear and be fine, and you cool with that, then cool. But if you come back 2 weeks later and you're like, I wish that stuff got done. I'm stressed out, and you don't know why, like it didn't get done. You just think, oh, I procrastinated or something. No, you didn't have boundaries when the time you're supposed to do that stuff, you gave it to something else. And so that's how the problem. And people don't see it that way. And I admit there's times I didn't see it that way either. I always thought I could just do it all. I was like, hey, I could be there and I can still get this done. And when I was in college, and I took 18 credit hours every semester from freshman year till I graduated. I did business management and pre-medicine to be a doctor. And there was times where I had insane work due. But people were like, hey, I need your help in the gym, man. I need you to train me. Can you help me out? And back then I used to work out like 3 hours a day. And I had already set that time to study. Yeah, I got you, bro. I'm in there. Now I'm stressed out. I'm working. I'm having a great time. I see them. They're getting something out of it. They're learning. I feel joy here. I'll go back to that room, and man, oh man, I got all this work I got to do. Now what happens? Now I'm rushing through it because I already waited to the end of the deadline. Boom. Now I'm turning into work that won't even gonna be as good as it was gonna be because I sacrificed to let someone else come into my boundaries. What I already had out planned out, and I let somebody else control it. One of the biggest things that I heard for that too is if if you don't know what you're doing tomorrow, tomorrow's already lost. So if you go to sleep, you don't know what you're doing, tomorrow's already lost because you don't have a plan or boundaries in place, and any and everything can come in and change that. So if you don't know what you're going to do when you wake up and you say, you know what, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to study whatever you got to do, and then I hit you up, JG hits you up, somebody hits you up and like, hey bro, you want to come through, kick it? We about to watch game 7. Game 7, you can't miss game 7, man. And you had all the stuff to do, but now you got to kick it with the boys or something. And because you didn't have boundaries on what you had to do, it's gone. That stuff's still there. That stuff ain't gonna disappear. And I think when it comes to anybody, that's again, that's people pleasing, right? Because dang, the boys are getting together to watch game 7. I can't let the boys down. I gotta be there with them. That's people pleasing.
Hey, and let me put on my Timberlands and step on some more toes, because you know this size 18 Timberland hit different now. Come on, let me step on some more toes. We done talked about boundaries in the personal life. Let's talk about boundaries with your work life, because listen, this is something I had to learn the hard way, and I didn't understand what was happening for the longest time. But just like you said, Shad, when you when you have a boundary that was originally set for you to do something, but you feel that time was something else, or you get pulled in another direction, whether it be by someone or something else, okay? Like I said at the top of the pod, we don't have an inexhaustible supply of energy, whether it be mental or physical. So however you delegate your time, you're spending that energy. Okay, which means you're going to have less to tap into later in the day or the longer the day goes. So I'll give you a perfect example. This was a cycle that was so hard for me to figure out. I would be at work, got a planning period, a built-in break, every day. So sometimes, and I'm really for real just now, like getting okay with this, like better with this, but like how you spend that time, whether for me as a teacher, whether that be grading or planning a lesson or whatever the case may be, like I have to be smart with that time, because I found that if I work straight through that was supposed to be planning time and don't take any type of break, then I'm really only breaking the 20 minutes for lunch, like the 25 minutes that we get for lunch as teachers, which is another topic for another day. 25 minutes for lunch is insane. But so I would continue in this pattern. So however I'm feeling that time where, it is a break from teaching class, but not necessarily a break from work. If I found that if I work straight through, I have less tolerance and less patience as the day winds down, because I've expended that mental energy. I didn't give myself a time to turn off, whether it be for 15 or 20 minutes or whatever. I didn't give myself a time to like kind of, refocus and refresh even within the course of the day. So I would find when I got home, where I would be like so short on patience by the time I got home. And I'm like, at like when I'm getting ready to go to sleep or whatever, at the end of the night, I'm like, man, why was I off like that? I would be short with the kids. I'd be like irritable. And then I would just be like, I would just go into this zone and just get quiet and like kind of shut off. And it's because I didn't use the opportunity I had earlier in the day to shut down for a little bit and relax. And I'm finding that that's necessary. I could do, depending on how long the break is, I could do 30 to 45 minutes of work and be productive. But whatever time is remaining, whether it be at the back end or the front end, like whatever other time there is, I need to kind of step away from working, because I can't go straight through the day like that. Like that's not how I'm wired, especially kind of how my day is structured. Like I can't go straight through that time working the whole time. It's not ideal for me to do that every day. And then be the father and the husband that I need to be at home in the evening, for real. So like I'm having to learn on the fly how to kind of delegate that time better, so that I have more to give to my family when I get home. Because if I'm working straight through the day, bell to bell, with no breaks, or minimal, or just taking a break just to eat, like I have less on the back end to give to my family. And that's really where I need to make sure that I have, because this is like a limited time, especially with the kids. The kids are in school now, so it's like they home for just a few hours before they got to start getting ready for bed. And it's like that time has to be important. Like today, it was cool. Today was cool. Zay made 100 shots today outside for Zay, in the rain. Zay was out there getting work in like crazy. I looked out. I said, "What is he do?" He out there holding the follow through. I'm like, "What is?" I didn't tell him to do that either. He just wanted to go shoot. And so by the time I got out there, I was cleaning up a little bit. I said, "Let me go out there with him real quick," And I got out there. By the time I got out there, he said, "Dad," he said, "I've made 30 shots." Then I was like, we shot around for a little bit. I went inside for a little bit longer, check on some stuff, came back out. He said, "Dad, I've made 60 shots." He said, I'm not stopping until I make 100. He was like, "Did anybody score 100 points in the game?" I said, "Yeah, Wilt Chamberlain." He said, "I'm breaking Wilt Chamberlain's record today." I said, "All right, son, let's go, man. Go ahead with you. All right, I got your rebounds right here. Let's go." But you know what I'm saying? Like, think about if I'm just like, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about the pod. I'm thinking about some other stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying? We getting ready to record. But think about if I had been just consumed with that, I would have missed that moment. And I think that made his night. Not only did it make his night, and that's something like we took pictures and everything. Like the man, he made a sign. Like I don't even, Zay is a wild dude. He literally made a sign. I got a picture of him holding the joint up. Like it's crazy. Like he really channeled Wilt. You know what I'm saying? He really channeled Wilt today, which was crazy. But like that was a moment that he's going to remember. And that was fun to see as a father, to kind of see like his enjoyment for something one of his interests, take it to that level where he's voluntarily just going out there and is like, I'm gonna make 100 shots a day. He's out there like chasing after the ball, getting his own rebound, like shooting all kind of different types of shots. And I'm just like, that was a great like father son moment. And I think if I hadn't set aside that time during the day to kind of to shut off and kind of give myself some time to relax in the midst of a busy day, I don't know if I would have had enough energy or patience to really appreciate that moment the way that I did today. So like that stuff is important, man. But that's a long. I know I went on for a little bit, but I want to kind of hear y'all's perspective on setting boundaries in your work life.
I think, and I know we just going crazy on y'all, but I think this is for everyone because everyone experiences boundaries at work. And I love the example that you have for like giving yourself time and rest and stuff. But another thing for boundaries at work is how much time do you give to other people to help them with their work, right? Again, back to kind of people pleasing. There's so many times where people go out the way to help other people get what they got to get done. Hey, can you help me out? I need help with this. Yeah, no problem, no problem. You're in the middle of a project, but hey, no problem. I help you. And you don't realize that you fall behind on your work, or your work starts to suffer because of that. And at the end of the day, like if your work suffers and you lose your job, those people you've been helping, they're not paying your bills. And a lot of the times people say, well, this is what it takes to move on. Yeah, it is what it takes to move on. Being a team player is what it takes to move on, but it's also getting your stuff done too and getting your stuff done efficiently. And too many times people mix the order up. Like, yeah, you want to help people. Like, that's not like helping people is great, but they hired you to do a job. And if you ain't doing your job, it don't matter how many people you helping because you're not doing your job because you just set boundaries on how many people you're going to help. And so people at work fall behind on stuff. And then this kind of goes back to then we're at the, when I talked about on the expectations episode, people working 8, 10, 12 hours a day. And they're just masking it as, oh, I'm working overtime because I'm providing for my family. No, you have no boundaries at work because you didn't do what you need to do in the 8-hour time slot. And you thought you were going to finesse the system. So you're going to work all this overtime and mask it as supplying for my family. But really, you just didn't have proper boundaries. And because you don't have proper boundaries, now again, it's all about sacrificing when you don't have right boundaries. You at work 12 hours, that's 4 hours you should have been at home with your family where they really want to see you. And so a lot of the times people think, oh, I'm just going to work overtime. I'm going to have these boundaries. I'm going to slack off. I'm going to just help other people. And then when everybody's gone, then I'm going to work overtime and get my stuff done. That's not really how that works because your leaders, they're always watching. And when it comes time to get, merits and promotions and stuff, the people you help that have the great numbers, the great efficiency and stuff like that, they the ones getting the merit and not you. And they not gonna give none of it to you. And so I think when it comes and that's something that I had to change myself because I realized I used to fall behind on work because I was always willing to help somebody out. And then I realized, man, like I'm really am falling behind. And if I keep falling behind, I might not have no job to fall behind too. And so I had to realize that I can't help everybody. I can't step in at every stretch project or I can't step in with every partnership or whatever. I have to make sure I can get my stuff done first. So I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not stressed out. So that way I can be the best version of myself so I can continue to help other people when I have the capacity to.
Boundaries at work. I don't know why, but this is a little bit easier for me to do at work. I told y'all, I think we was on the call Friday. I said I don't schedule any meetings. No, it was Thursday. We was on a call. I said I don't schedule no meetings before 10. I get to work at 8. 8 to 10, I'm working. I don't schedule no meetings before 10, and I try not to schedule any meetings at the end of the day. But sometimes things come up. Some things happen during the busy season, but I did see this happen with we had a new employee, and this new employee was struggling with meeting deadlines. She's new to the role, new to the position, and so she was struggling to try to prioritize what she needed to get done and was falling behind on tasks. So that was a time where I could step in and help her and show her, like, sometimes you just got to tell people I don't have time for this right now. I'm gonna have to get back to you either tomorrow or next week uh or next month sometimes, depending on what's going on. So for work, it's sometimes a little bit easier for me. I did find that during our busy seasons, I don't like I try to schedule at least a 30-minute walk every day during my lunch. During our busy season, I found that I kind of lost focus on that I need to get back to that and setting that time at least 30 minutes to just go outside, exercise, get a little walk. So I need to do better with that. But for work, it's usually a little bit easier for me because it's easier for me to prioritize what I need to get done and how much time I need to do it. And then that's in turn lets me know how much time I have to help others.
Hey man, I picked the topic. I just wanted to listen to y'all because I struggle in all areas. Ain't nothing for me to say tonight. I'm listening. I struggle in all areas, fellas. I can't even. It's so crazy because I went to lunch with I went to lunch with this lady, and she's like, "Terrell, tell me what you got going on." I tell her everything I got going on. She's like, "Okay, God gonna take something from you. If you don't start creating boundaries, God gonna take something from me." And I was like, "Whoo!" That hit me a little different. That's when I was like, "Okay, I gotta figure this thing out." And that's only probably a month and a half ago when she said that. And I was struggling 2 weeks ago, still struggling, and I'm not saying I struggle with boundaries at work, family, extra things going on, the phone, all of that. So that's why I kind of wanted to highlight that because I know some people go through this, man. You know what I mean? Everybody isn't at the elite level of setting boundaries. You got Shad who don't feel nothing, so it might be easier. I don't know. You got JG with the experience, and then you got Spence at work. He good, and then you got me. I'm struggling in all categories, so that's why I'm like, I'm just listening, and I have so many reasons why I struggle. But again, it could be people pleasing. That's just the way my heart is built, bro. Like it's part of my DNA. Just wanting to see people, you know, seeing people be okay, seeing people like receiving kindness as well and being able to demonstrate it. And I live a lot of my life based on those values. But yeah, I struggle in all the areas for sure.
Hey, bro, I'm gonna say you don't struggle in all areas, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because there's one area you don't struggle in,
All right.
and before I tell you, I think like what we've been talking about literally has been this book, Boundaries. Boundaries, when to say yes, how to say no to take control of your life. And I realized we've just been talking about some of these chapters that's in here, so it's kind of crazy. But there's one chapter that I don't think you struggle with, and that's boundaries with the digital age, like social media and stuff like that, because you got rid of it. Like it was no issue for you to move on from it and stuff like that. But I think now in today's age, that is a huge problem for people to is social media. And I think on the Keep It G call, we've heard some of the things that people struggle with that they have with their phone. And I mean, we learn stuff in like the settings. You can go and block stuff. So you can't even access certain things like that. But I think that's literally one of the biggest things that people don't have any control or boundaries around is even like social media. Like how long are you even spending on social media? Like, I wonder if people have taken the time to go like to their app usage and look at the time maybe they spent on X or Instagram or whatever social media platform you use and see how much time you spend actually like scrolling through it. And like, if you're constantly like, if you have like 5-6 hours a day scrolling, I don't think you have boundaries on it unless you're using it to make money. Like, unless social media is making you money, if it's just entertainment, like there's no boundaries on that because when is enough enough? Like, when are you going to stop? And like actually go and do something because like you said, something's being taken away, something's being sacrificed when you spend like you got 8 hours of working, you're trying to get your 8 hours of sleep. If you got 5 hours on social media, like where's the rest of your time to do something else in your life? And so um that's something that I try to be more conscious of. That's a work in progress for me at times. Sometimes I can find myself just aimlessly scrolling, just out of habit, just pick it up and I'm just scrolling and it takes me like 15 minutes sometimes to realize like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? I wasted 15 minutes, not even realizing it. So like, you know, bro, I don't think that's something you struggle with, but I guess JG and Spence, has that ever been something for y'all where you realize like, man, I just be on social media or I just be in the digital, I just be absorbing information just online or the internet, sometimes good information, a lot of times bad information. Like, how is that for y'all?
I struggle with that, and mine may not be with social media, but using my phone, like, and my wife gets on me about this all the time. I listen to you. I listen to you. I'll be hearing you what you be saying, but we'll be out. It was one time we were getting groceries, and it was the beginning of the NFL football season. I'm walking around the store, phone in my hand, watching football, and not knowing what's going on. She off in the produce. I'm still sitting in the cold section. No, don't know where she at, and it's because I'm just so lost in my phone watching football on my phone. And she's like, "You didn't even know I walked off. You know where I went." Cause you so consumed with this phone, the sports, the games, you know what was going on around you. Anything could have happened. And I was like, mm-mm, mm-mm. So that's what I struggle with when it's especially football season, basketball season going on, and it's a game I really want to watch, and we out doing something. I'm pulling it up on my phone. Yeah, I go, baby. I'm gonna just pull it up on my phone. There's been times I'll be listening to the game. We riding down the road. Saturday is going to her brother's games at Central. It's college football season. Saturday, I'm listening to the games on the road. She's sitting in the passenger seat. But I would say, yeah, I do struggle with that sometimes, and it's a work in progress. I'm trying to be, especially when I'm with my wife or family, I'm trying to be more intentional about being present and not being consumed with my phone and trying to watch every game that's on.
Hey, I feel you for that, because that first week of fantasy football is the worst week for my wife. She is not pleased with the first week of fantasy. I'm checking it. I turn it off. I'm like, get off the app, get right back on it. Like another play just happened, might change my score. But like, no, I get what you mean. But like, it's the being present there for them, because for me, it's the group chats. It's the group chats going off, and I sometimes I'm in the middle of a conversation with her, and then I just look at the group chat because it starts buzzing. Right? I just see the light shine, and I get distracted, and it's like that's not good. That's not good at all, and it's something that I try to be more intentional of. Is like how often am I checking my fantasy, or how often am I looking at these group chats when I'm supposed to be spending time with my wife, or in a conversation with anybody? And it's just like you said, the digital age, it distracts us so much. So my bad. I know someone's about to go, and I just kind of hop back in, but I just had to relate to you on that one, especially that first week, man. It's a holiday for NFL fans and stuff like that. It is not a holiday for her. It is not a holiday for her. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think for me the social media isn't uh as bad as it used to be. I used to just kind of waste times like scrolling throughout the day and just kind of get lost in the scroll, whether it be like funny videos or sports, like highlights, or whatever the case may be. I can I empathize with the fantasy football. I'm an avid fantasy football participant every year, so like even that's kind of taking a hit as far as just like keeping up with the scores and things like that. Just because on Sundays, be one of the few days where like we all home all day. And you know, my son is a lot like me when I was that age. Like I used to not be able to sit through a whole game, whether it be football or basketball, because I would just want to go out and play. So like whatever I was watching, I was trying to go out in the yard and do that, or just shoot on the hoop or do whatever. He's the same way. He'll watch like a quarter, and he'll be like, all right, Dad, let's go. We got a game. We got a what? Huh? We got a game? You're talking about, man? This is the game. We watching the game. He said, no, we got a game, Dad. You know, and we call it Giddings Field. So like he be having us out there he'd be trying to do 2-on-2. I had to like back it down. I said, let's just run some routes, Zay. Like, we'll see if you can, you know, run some routes real quick. Cause like he really be trying to be out there physical with the 2-on-2. It's like, nah, that's not really going. So like I think the kids take a lot a lot of time in a good way away from when I could be on my phone checking scores or whatever like that. Now I will be transparent now, see, because we gonna be real. We ain't gonna skate around the topic and act like we ain't got the struggles. Like y'all, now let me tell you, when I was on that gambling, hey, let me tell you something. I'll never forget this day, man. I was over at your house. I'll never forget this day, bro. Like it was a wake up call for real. Like we was over there chilling. We was on his deck chilling, talking, all of that. I think he had the TV even set up. We was getting ready to watch a game, bro. And like I was putting this parlay together, and I just like went to a different, like I was just man, I was just in a different place. For I don't even know how long it was. Like all I know is like I started it and then I was just locked in trying to like for real put together like the perfect parlay. And you know, I'm going between the games, adding legs to this joint, whatever. And all of a sudden, I hear, hey, JG, hey, JG, man, what you doing, man? What you so locked in on over there? I was like, oh yeah, my bad, fellas. I'm just putting this parlay together. You know what I'm saying? I think it was the NBA playoffs, as a matter of fact. At the time, I was like, I'm just trying to put this parlay together for these games to get started. And he was like, bro, I'd never seen you like that. Like you was in a different time zone. Like you wasn't here with us, man. I was like, yeah. And then I went right back into it. All I said was, yeah. And then just went like I was gone again. So like that was a big one for real. And it was to the point where like when God spoke to me about that, about something that I just needed to like, you know, stop doing. I needed to put that down. I couldn't even like fight that because I knew like, and the way he worded it to me, he was like, it's distracting you from time you could be spending with me. It's distracting you from hearing my voice. And like, it was a distraction from everything. Like if I knew a parlay was going to lose, or if I knew a bet was going to lose, I started looking for the next one immediately. So I'm like, I'm gonna get this back, and you know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm watching it and I'm tracking, I'm like, yeah, this ain't gonna hit. I'm gonna go in here and do another one. It was just such a like constant thing. It just occupied so much space in my mind. Like it didn't leave no room for nothing else for real. Like it was just like, it was all consuming. So like, man, whoever approved that, getting them sports books on the phone, man, oh man, you gonna get yours. You gonna get yours because that ain't right. You playing with people's livelihood, man.
Man, bro, you are. The way it occupies your mind is insane. Like you hit the nail on the head, JG. Like it really occupies your time and the space in your brain, and it creates the what if syndrome in your brain. Like, well, oh, what if I just need this? But yeah, I could do this too. Well, what if this hit? I'm good. And I was thinking about something too, JG. What you said earlier is like something about being in the moment. Like, what if I missed that moment? And it's still the what if syndrome. What if? And I think listening to you guys, I think about that when they come to work, when they come to my family, and when they come to my life. Like, what if I miss this moment? And so therefore I want to do all the things. Like I don't want to miss no Mother's Day, no Father's Day going up the road, because what if they're not here next year? When you really experience that loss and you think about all those things, you start to create and occupy those thoughts in your mind, and you just kind of hold on to them. You start creating like all these scenarios that ain't even real. And I think that starts to build the pressure for me specifically just on the daily life every single year, no matter what's going on. At work, it's the same thing. Oh, I don't want to miss this moment with this worker that's doing so well and highlighting what they may need to work on, whatever, because they might not get it. What if they don't get it from another supervisor or somebody else? Um, what if I don't pick up that phone? What's gonna happen to that person? You know what I mean? So just being able to understand, like, yeah, JG using a gambling analogy and for the parlays and stuff, but it's the same things, and life is what I'm realizing too, because you taking the risk to do something else by not creating a boundary. You gambling with your own life. I'm gambling with my own life. I could be putting my strain on my heart by doing all this stressful driving. I could be dead tomorrow and not even realize it. So it's like, is that even worth the reward if I'm not willing to risk it for God? I'm willing to risk it for everybody else, but I ain't willing to take the time out, to JG's point, to like just spend with God. I'm just worried about the other what ifs instead of wondering like, oh, what is God about to do for me? What do I need to do for him? But I just think I get caught up in the what ifs of the world and what I can see, what I can feel, what I may not have anymore, what I want to experience. Um, yeah, what if I don't make it to age 40? I might as well go ahead and go on all these trips. All right, what if I hit this parlay for a 10 leg for a meal? What I'm gonna do tomorrow? And it's all taking your focus off the one thing that put you here in the first place, to allow you to even have a thought about what if. You know what I'm saying? So it's just so many factors, and that's why I think like the boundaries, man, it hit me a little bit different this week, and that's why I'm so glad I even had the courage to bring it up, because I struggle with this joint so bad. Like it's really tough. It's really tough on my end. So just hearing y'all, I had to really take that, like, yeah, what if I miss this moment with my son? JG said that, and I'm like, dang, I'm carrying that thought into every single interaction. That's a lot of pressure, and I just gotta kind of give it over to God and surrender it to Him and rest it in Him. But I just wanted to say that as a takeaway, real quick. Anybody got anything else?
Here you go. Shout out to Gael. Look at, hear me turning my pages. Shout out to Phenomenal Things.
Hey, shout
Hear
out
me
to
turning the
Phenomenal
pages of my Bible.
That fire. That jump be fire.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, here we go. I'm here. Matthew 25, the parable of the 10 bridesmaids. Let's see. Then the kingdom of heaven, this is Jesus talking. Then the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 bridesmaids who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. The 5 who were foolish didn't take enough olive oil for their lamps, but the other 5 were wise enough to take along extra oil. When the bridegroom was delayed, they all became drowsy and fell asleep. At midnight, they were roused by the shout, "Look, the bridegroom is coming. Come out and meet him." All the bridesmaids got up and prepared their lamps. Then the 5 foolish ones asked the others, "Please give us some of your oil because our lamps are going out." But the others replied, "We don't have enough for all of us. Go to a shop and buy some for yourselves." But while they were gone to buy oil, the bridegroom came. Then those who were ready went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was locked. Later, when the other 5 bridesmaids returned, they stood outside calling, "Lord, Lord, open the door for us." But he called back, "Believe me, I don't know you. So you too must keep watch, for you do not know the day or hour of my return." So I think in the discussion about the what if, it made me think about this quote I heard. I can't place it, but it's like, what are you going to be doing when Jesus comes back? Like, what's gonna be occupying your mind? What's gonna be occupying your time? Right? Like, are you gonna have enough oil in your lamp, or are you gonna have to run out and get more? And so I think if our focus is where it needs to be, and we're not pulled in all these different directions, like, and we're setting aside time to spend with God each and every day, we're gonna have enough oil for our lamps for when Jesus comes back. But like, if we are getting pulled in different directions, okay, so now we're tired. All right, so we miss some time with God because we're trying to get some extra sleep, right? We try to get it in another way, and I'm guilty of this. This has happened to me plenty of times. It's like, all right, I'm gonna do it in the middle of the day, but then something come up, or so I got to cover for somebody, so it gets pushed back again. Okay, I'm gonna do it when I get home before the kids get back. End up getting home later than expected. And by the time I get everything situated and sit down, it's almost time to go to the bus stop to pick the kids up. And then when the kids get home, that's a 3 to 4 hour block of time, spending time with them, getting dinner ready, making sure they're eating, and then getting them ready for bed and everything like that, playing with them, whether inside or outside, whatever the case may be. And so now 8, 9 o'clock rolls around, and it's like, okay, am I going to stay up late and do these things that I'm supposed to do? Am I going to get my reading done now? Am I going to pray now? And usually for me, what ends up happening is like, man, I feel like I've been going all day. Like, I just want to relax and go get into bed and go to sleep. And so I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world to have a day off to where you don't where you feel like you don't spend enough time in the word or in prayer or just with God in general. He's always with us. For me personally, I just feel a way when I don't get to set aside that time just for him. And now I feel like I'm trying to squeeze him into my day rather than starting my day with him. And so that's kind of all I was thinking is like, I don't want to be distracted by FanDuel or fantasy football, or you know what I'm saying, social media scrolling, when that's time I could be spending with the Lord or ministering to somebody during that time, encouraging somebody during that time. You know, I don't want to let my guard down. I don't want to fall asleep and not have enough oil in my lamp and then have to scramble to go get it when he comes back. Like, I want to be ready when he come back. Really, who knows what that looks like? But I think if we're following the example of Jesus in the Gospels, if we're, you know, looking in the Word at the heroes of the faith and trying to follow their examples and the details of their story, that's going to put us on the right path to be ready for, you know, when Jesus comes back. When we see him one day, we won't be unprepared. We'll have been doing everything necessary, taking the steps necessary each and every day to walk closer with him, spending more time with him, and encouraging others in the faith and bringing other souls into the kingdom and using our time that way, being empowered by the Holy Spirit to do the work of the kingdom, rather than being distracted by these other things that we were discussing. And so, you know, it might not be apples to apples with the parable, but that's what it made me think of for real. Is just like, you know, there's 10 bridesmaids, 5 were prepared, 5 weren't. For whatever reason, 5 of them didn't have what they needed to be ready for the return. So for the return of the bridegroom. I just want to make sure I wasn't saying something that wasn't in there. But they wasn't ready for the return of the bridegroom. So whatever the case may be, like if you think about ways that distract you, things that can distract you from being ready, is some of the stuff that we talked about just now. So again, it might not be apples to apples, but that's what I thought of when we were having that discussion.
No, that's dope. That definitely makes sense, JG. I appreciate you pulling up that scripture, man. Thank you. All right, man. Well, if nobody got anything else, we'll get into everybody's favorite section, Spencer's notepad.
Spencer's notepad. Real quick, for everybody listening, follow us on social media: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, at Wholesome Thinking Pod. We love to hear from you. Like, comment, subscribe. Send us messages of topics or questions that you may want to hear us talk about or answer on the pod. We love to hear from you. Spencer's notebook. The few things that stuck out to me tonight was being able to say no, something I struggle with, especially when it comes to family, which ties into the people pleasing and me struggling with that, trying to make sure that everybody is satisfied when, and I'm compromising, which ties into my next point, compromising my feelings for someone else, which Shad talked about, compromising my peace and basically putting my piece on the back burner and putting somebody else's piece in front of mine, which is something I struggle with and I'm currently working through. And when Shad said that, it kind of hit home for me because I'm constantly struggling with that, especially when it comes to family. Um, Another thing was when it comes to like making decisions, look at it when you're asking for people for um advice, look at it as a perspective and not a decision. And something that I struggle with, if I don't know a decision to make, I go and ask for advice. I use that as, oh, they making the decision for me. This is what I really need to be doing, and instead of taking that advice and adding to my own thoughts and kind of coming to my own decision instead of, oh, I'm asking somebody else and maybe they'll have a clear understanding, they can make the decision for me. And then the last thing Real mentioned is the what if syndrome. I struggle with that, creating these um fake scenarios in my head. What if this happens? If since I'm not going to be able to make this, what if this happens? If that happens? And it's all things that you can't control. You can't control what happens. You just get creating all these scenarios and stress yourself out in your head, and you can't even control if it happens or not. You don't know if it'll happen or not. So those were the things that kind of stuck out with me tonight.
Word. Appreciate you, Spence. Appreciate you for sharing that and giving me your perspective back to the audience, man. We love that section. Appreciate you, bro. All right, man. Anything else on your minds tonight about boundaries, man? I talked about a lot of great stuff. I'm still sitting over here processing the first segment of the pod tonight, man. That was a lot to listen to, bro. I'm sitting over here like, man, y'all is stepping on big toes today. all the bunions, all the corns on the feet, all that. Y'all getting crazy, stomping my toes out today. Like, I don't understand what's going on. But no, I definitely appreciate y'all shedding a lot of light. But anything else that come to your mind with this conversation?
Nothing for me. Just for those. I said nothing for me, but here I go talking. But for those that's been listening, if there's a like again, like I said at the beginning, if there's a spot that you like, man, I need to go back and listen to that. Don't forget, we got the timestamps in the descriptions for you, as well as these resources that we've been talking about. So go try that reaction test I was mentioning, and make sure you check out the other resources too. But they will be in the description for you to go back to your favorite section of the episode, so you can just go and study it and learn how to apply it for yourself.
All right, fellas. So appreciate you, Shad. We'll go ahead and get into the encouragement for the week. Anybody want to start us off? I'm gonna go over here just thinking about a lot of different things. I might need the encouragement for myself. I might be selfish this week to all the listeners. Oh man, anybody got anything though?
Yeah, I could go ahead. I think mine's is a little different than it normally is because we kind of didn't really talk about it. But have boundaries in your finances as well, and that's a whole topic for itself. But make a budget for yourself. Like, we don't know what's going to happen in the world. You don't know what's going to happen with your finances. Dig your well before you're thirsty, and set a budget. And when you set the budget, don't compromise on your budget. Like, if the money is allocated for something, let that money be allocated for something. If the money is meant to pay off debt, don't buy that. Then you should buy it and use it for that. Make sure you have more money left in month every single month. And have boundaries around where your money goes. Know where it goes and have boundaries around it, because you we bring it up every now and then in episodes, but like, you need money. Like, you need money to do a lot of different things, and you need money to help serve the kingdom too. And so if you're going to help give, um and sow and do all this stuff, you got to make sure you have boundaries on where your finances are going, and making sure you have boundaries on your own financial situation. If you're in debt, prioritize getting out of debt so we can help more people. And if you know you're spending, figure out how can you cap the spending on unnecessary things or unplanned expenses. So that's my encouragement for the week, man. It's just, we talked about a lot of other boundaries, but also don't forget to have boundaries on your finances.
Appreciate you, Shad.
I got two. Then real quick though, the first one is speaking to myself too. And JG was talking when he said this. Stop creating false and misleading impressions, because I struggle with that. Just agreeing to things and being okay with things, being okay, saying I'm okay with something and when I'm really not. Stop creating false and misleading impressions. Be assertive and communicate when you're not okay with something. And my last one is be intentional with about the access that you give people, and the amount of access that people have to you. Everybody and everything shouldn't have access to you, and vice versa. So be intentional about what you have access to and the people that have access to you.
Yeah. So for me, this was something that we didn't get a chance to talk about as far as boundaries are concerned, but it's something that I was coming across in my reading in the last week or so, is personal boundaries for holiness. And it was kind of highlighted for me in the story of David, specifically in 2 Samuel 11, verses 1 and 2. And so this is when David commits adultery with Bathsheba. And you can read it. You could read that again. That's 2 Samuel chapter 11. But one thing that stood out to me was that he was not where he was supposed to be, either physically or spiritually. Physically, he was supposed to be at war with his army. The chapter starts off with, in the spring of the year, when kings normally go out to war, David sent Joab and the Israelite army to fight the Ammonites. However, David stayed behind in Jerusalem. So it's pretty clear that when kings normally go out to war, David was king at this point and he chose to stay home. So he wasn't where he was supposed to be physically. And then in the verses to come, he's restless. He finds himself pacing around his palace, ends up on the roof, where he sees Bathsheba, sins for her, and eventually commits adultery with her. So he wasn't where he was supposed to be spiritually. So, I mean, God wanted him in a certain place physically and spiritually. He was not there in either regard. And I think the more that I reflect on the story of David, which is what I've been reading most recently in the various books, First Samuel, Second Samuel, and then Chronicles as well, is that every time David slipped up and every time David sinned, he was not where he was supposed to be physically and spiritually. And there are several examples of that throughout his life. And so I say that to say as encouragement, I just want to encourage you to take stock of where you are spiritually and be aware of that and respond accordingly, whatever that looks like for you. If you have a relationship with God the Father, take some time each and every day to make sure that you are in step with His will for your life and the purpose that He has for your life. Check in, check in with the Father, and just make sure that you're aligned with His heart, and that you are where you're supposed to be spiritually. And then make sure that, again, as far as His purpose for your life is concerned, make sure you're where you're supposed to be physically. Talk to Him. You know what I'm saying? Take time to ask Him questions, to share what's on your heart, to unload your burdens, cast your anxieties on Him because He cares for you. So take that time to cultivate that soil, grow that relationship with Him, and make sure that you're where you need to be, physically and spiritually, because when you're not, it can lead to rough times for you.
Appreciate you, JG. I don't know if this is encouragement, so I'm gonna just say what's on my mind. But anybody that may struggle with boundaries, like myself, I think we just got to stop being hard on ourselves and placing pressure on ourselves and in our minds and creating the scenarios like Spencer said, and just being able to be intentional about creating the boundaries and start verbalizing different boundaries that you want to be, that you want to see and that you want to feel. And I think being able to probably write down and identify what things that you feel like may be draining towards us. I think, a lot of good things came out of this episode. I think we all have to realize when it's time to rest as well. So being able to pick a Sabbath day of rest during the week, it doesn't have to be Sunday, was a huge takeaway today for myself. So anybody experiencing some of the things that I'm currently struggling with creating boundaries and being able to put them into place, take the pressure off yourself. We got to stop trying to be God. We, like Spence said too, we can't control these things that go on in this world. We can't control the events that may happen. We can't control the holidays. We can't control a lot of things, but we can control our boundaries, and we can be intentional about resting. So that would kind of be my encouragement for everybody that may be experiencing some of those things. But again, we appreciate you guys listening to us on another episode of Wholesome Thinking. This is episode 15. We talked about boundaries, and we just hope you all have a great weekend and tune in with us next time.